slight change to the program. We're swapping two of our speakers. So up next, we are having our high-tech tiny talk with Bob Clarizio. Thank you, Bob, for coming out. And immediately following this, we are going to be having our homeowners Q&A panel here on the main stage. That's going to happen at noon, so make sure that you stick around for that. All right, we're going to give it up for Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, don't everyone clap at once. Well, so basically what I wanted to do today was I'm going to talk to you about three different things, and one of them is who I am, kind of my background, since nobody really knows who the hell I am, because it was like on the sheet it was this guy, this person, and others, and I was in there. So I'm going to talk about who I am and kind of where my background is, and then I also want to talk about how I got started in the tiny house movement, and then how we're implementing technology, both on how it's fueling the overall awareness of the movement, but also how we have some technologies that we're implementing into our homes. So, like she had said, my name's Bob Clarizio, and I'm the owner of Titan Tiny Homes out of Chicago, Illinois. So, ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be doing something with my hands. I valued craftsmanship, work, come from a long list of entrepreneurs, a craftsman type family. So I can remember being probably 3-4 years old, and I would wake up at like 5 in the morning in the summer, and I'd go and I'd sit down on the steps going up to the second floor of our house when I was a kid, and I would wait for my dad to come down to go to work, and I would be all dressed, and I'd have my shoes on, probably not tied, but be ready to go, and I'd beg him to take me to work with him, because it was way better than hanging out with my mom and my 3 younger brothers at the pool. And that's how I spent my summers as a kid, was always being around construction and custom homes, subdivisions, stuff like that. And while everyone thought I was playing, in my mind as a little kid, I was working, and I loved that. So we speed things up, and I'm graduating high school, and my mother's begging me not to go to work for my dad. She wanted me to find my own way, and like any good son, I didn't listen to her. And when I started working for my dad as an electrical contractor and building custom homes in what's called the North Shore area of Chicago. And I learned that you could really find a passion for what you really wanted to do and find value in that and really hold on to that. Move forward. 2009, the recession hit, had a falling out with my father, and like any smart person, I decided that it was a good idea to start a business doing kitchen and bathroom remodeling in the worst recession in the last 25 years. So, struggled, but I stuck with it, and I was really loving what I did, like full-heartedly, like the passion was there. The problem was that the reciprocation really wasn't. You know, I'm one contractor flooded with 5,000 others, and you become a commodity. And people want you because they need to have the work done, or they need this done, or whatever. And I wasn't getting the reciprocation value, but I was like, you know, we'll stay patient. The right opportunity will come, and things will change eventually. Just be open, right? And I'll never forget the day that I first got approached about the tiny house thing. I was walking out, so I was on a realtor tour. I was looking for houses to buy, and we were going to flip them. And so it was one of these days where you're looking at 6, 7, 10 different houses in a day, and you got to make all these quick decisions and kind of remind yourself like of the houses and take pictures and put offers in. Because at that time we had gotten to the point where we were fixing flipping, 2, 3 houses at a time. Well, my office manager calls me, and as I'm walking out of one of these houses, and she says, I don't know if this is a prank call or not, but I really think you should call this person back. And I said, what was it about? She says, well, they say they're with the TV show, Tiny House Nation. I'm like, those stupid little houses? And people actually do that? And no, in Chicago? She said, yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out too, but I really think you should call them because they seem serious. And I'm like, okay, well, they caught my attention with TV, and I did think the houses were cool, but I didn't actually think people actually bought them. You know, we're in Chicago. Nobody had a tiny house with, still to this day, within like 500 miles of us. So for me, it was like, okay, well, we'll check it out. So I was open ears. Well, it turned out that the production company didn't have a builder, and they were flying into town in 2 weeks to shoot an episode for a couple that they didn't have a builder for. So I guess the builder backed out, took some of their money, and stopped answering the phone. So to speed it up, we decided to do the show. We're like, okay, we'll do it. And at the very least, if we never build another tiny house, who cares? We'll get a TV show out of it, and we'll have some fun. So, but what we didn't realize is how we're like, how complicated could it be? It's just a house on wheels. Well, so we get the trailer to our shop. Mind you, our shop was like 1,000 square feet. So like, we couldn't fit the house inside. So we're building this first house in the alley of our shop. And so we start going on the internet like anybody would do, and we start, like, we're looking, you know, tiny house how-to tips. We're printing out these PDF files that were like 300 pages, and we're flipping through them and all this stuff. And what we just realized was we just threw everything out the window, and we're like, overkill. Like, we'll build this thing so the first house we built was like a battleship. I mean, just strapping, and it weighed 20,000 pounds. It was 28 feet long. And we started building it, and the first week we built it, nobody was around. And then when I say the circus came into town, the circus came to town. You know, two cameramen, three personal production assistants, sound guys. There were 15 people that bombed our little 1,000 square foot shop. And all of a sudden, like, you think that you don't have distractions. Well, they were distracting as hell, and they slowed us down. But so that was a whole experience, you know, having all the film people around you, and you get nervous, like they got the camera and it's like in your face while you're trying to measure something or trying to get a shot, or they tell you to stop working because they want to film this and they need quiet. And so all these new things are getting thrown at us, but I'm loving it. Like, I think that this is so cool. Like, somebody actually gives a shit about what I'm doing, and I thought that was just great. So then the week that they filmed, we would start at like 6:30, 7 in the morning and work till like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. One night we worked all the way till the sun came up, and it was crazy. But we got the house done on time, when normally these builders have, you know, about a month to do them, and then they come in the last day and they kind of just do the filming. So we tour the house around on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of August in a downtown area of our town. Now, mind you, nobody's seen a tiny house in like 500 miles. Like, the most you see it is on TV. So you got people sitting outside of these little cafes, you know, they're eating lunch. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're dropping their food back onto their plates as this like battleship is rolling down their street. And it was a lot of fun. So the real aha moment for me happened. So it's the last day that they're filming, and they go to do the reveal. Now, everyone sees that reveal at the end of those TV shows, and it's like they just open the door, boom, boom, boom. It's like a 2-minute thing. But that 2-minute thing typically takes like 4 hours to shoot, because they do all these approach, and then they start over. They approach the door, and then they start over. So they don't have, and then the other half is then opening the doors. The woman, it was a husband and wife, and she that hired us to do the house, and she wouldn't stop crying. She was just overwhelmed, and they had to stop and stop and stop and stop, and it was 8 hours to film this. And eventually they just said, screw it, just go in crying, because we don't know what to do with you. But it opened my eyes in a really dramatic way that this product has the ability to have that effect on people. And And I was like, why is that? And so then I was fascinated by it because I saw this woman just totally break down in empathy and I just had all this admiration for, it was like mutual. It was just great. And I never experienced that before. It was always like, here's the work, here's the money, do it. Yep, I'm going to work. I'll see you later. And then, then you get the complaints. But with this, it was like, you're changing my life. And I was like, how? Just a house on wheels. I didn't know anything. I was just a builder. And so I just, I got into a real high research mode. And what I found out is that people in today's market value time. That's it. Nobody sells a product anymore. Everybody sells time. If you don't believe me, check out Uber. Uber does not sell cab rides. They sell time. People value the 10 minutes that they can plan ahead to schedule a car as opposed to standing on the side of the curb hailing a cab down for somebody that they don't know. They value the time of figuring that process out ahead of time. Amazon doesn't sell toothbrushes, cosmetics, or books. They sell time. People value that time. And it's the same thing with tiny houses. People value the time that we're giving them back. See, the average median income in this country is 30% of what you make goes towards your housing expenses every year. And with our product, you can live for $700 a month with land, tax, the whole thing. I mean, we're financing these tiny houses at $400 a month. You can go find some land, pay a $15 electric bill for one of our high efficiency homes, and you can live the life you want to live for 10% instead of 30. So if people don't want to work as much because they don't need to, because their expenses are less, they have more time to go do things. Brings their availability up really high. So that was the big aha moment for me, was the fact that we could give people back their lives and they were appreciative for it. So we decided to then go all in. It was October 2015, which seems like a million years ago, and I know that it was like 18 months ago. And since then, we've done over 40 homes in 15 or 20 different states across the country, and nothing within Chicagoland area at all. I have 2 houses in New Jersey, 2 in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, North Carolina, South Carolina, 3 in Florida, 2 in Texas, 5 in California. I mean, the list goes on and on. The point of that is that we just went all in. People thought we were nuts, and we were. I mean, I was pretty crazy. It was crazy. So we launched the product officially in 2016 in January, so a little over a year ago, and it's been a wild ride ever since. But one of the things that we did is we wanted to understand what was going on. So I would fly out the first 10 houses. I was flying out to every single delivery, spending the weekend with these people. And I can assure you that 70% of them all were crying when they got their houses. And the astonishing thing to me is that at least 50% of them had never been inside a tiny house before. But they bought one over the phone with us. And then the first time they went into one was when it showed up. And I was like, oh gosh. If I remember bringing the first house and somebody goes, oh, this is exciting, I've never been in one before. And I'm like, okay, well, I hope you really like it because it's yours. So we speed that up. And so how are we able to do that, right? How are we able to take the brand to this massive level so fast with our product? And the way we were able to do that was we drew a line in the sand. We said, well, we can't sell within 500 miles of us, which every other tiny house company was really capitalizing on their own local markets, because a lot of the tiny house companies come about when they're allowed in their area and then they start building them. We didn't have that luxury, and we still don't to this day, actually. Still don't have a house within 500 miles. We were like, how do we do this? Why would somebody choose to buy 80%, of our homes they never come and meet us? Why is that? So it's because of technology. See, social media has revolutionized the niche industries across the country. And never before has somebody been able to launch a product or a vision or a mission or whatever you want to call it or whatever industry you want to think about so fast. I mean, you guys all live in this area, but I can assure you that every single show that I go to across the country, there are 65 to 70,000 people that show up at every single show. And no one can put their thumb on it because it's scattered across social media, and it's so hard to track, and there's no real there's no industry behind it putting all the metrics and check boxes in place. And the coolest thing about this is there's no dealer network for this stuff. This is besides Tesla, there's no other product that's of this kind of dollar figure that's being bought over the internet. It's crazy. With no dealerships, they're all buying factory direct, cutting that 20% out that it costs to mark up the dealerships. So you have all these things fueling this thing. So for us, we wanted to really draw that line in the sand. So we started our social media campaigns, but what we really did is we're like, okay, how do we make our products so different that people would say, you know what, I don't care how far away they are, I want to purchase this. So one of the things we did right away was we actually do the steel framing. So all of our houses right off the bat were all steel framed, lightweight, but then we took it a step further. This year we use a ultralight panel system. So our first house that was 28 feet long, weighed about 20,000 pounds, and we had to rent a dump truck to pull it because it was so massive. And now we just did a 32-footer that's actually in Galloway, New Jersey, which is in the Pine Barrens area. And it's a 32-foot unit that weighs 13,000 pounds that I towed from Chicago to here in like 13 hours. So I know that there's a lot of myths out there about that these things are difficult to maneuver and things like that, but if you do things right and you engineer them correctly, and you have an intention in mind. See, like we took a very product approach to it, and we're like, what's going to make this thing freaking awesome? And so that was one of the things that we did. So now we have them that they're $15 a month to run the electric, and they just keep getting better and better, and it's a lot of fun. And I guess the bottom line is that, you know, we live in a world of frustration. Like, people are just frustrated, and to be able to offer a solution that's so universal, you know, whether it's just like a solution to get away for the weekend, it's a very inexpensive way to have a home away from home, or whether you're a college student frustrated because somebody told you it was a great idea to drop 100 and whatever grand on an education that pays $50,000 a year. You know, you can't even get out of your mom's house. So this product will allow you to do that. Or you live in Manhattan where rents are in the $2,700 range, and you can get into something for $800 and be just a little bit outside of the city. You know, whatever your story is, this product can offer a solution. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why I love it so much, because it's really, you're making a difference. That was the one component that I hadn't found until I got into the tiny house movement, is that you could find value and love for what you do, but at the same time, you can make a difference and you're appreciated. And I think that's one thing that we all have on our above us, is make me feel important, make me feel appreciated. I am somebody to someone somewhere, and so that's my shtick. So I want to open it up to question and answers. If anyone's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Yes, sir.
Do you get involved in the registering and insuring of them?
Yes. So his question was, do we get involved in the registration and insuring of them? So we are regulated as an RV manufacturer, and we are regulated by the federal government with what's called a WMI and SAE numbering system. That's the VIN code system. So we produce all our own VIN numbers and identifications, MSOs, which is the manufacturer state of origin paperwork that you would take to the DMV, and then they'd issue you a title. tax, title, and license is handled in your own state. And as far as the insurance goes, we work with a company out of Colorado Springs that's actually engineered a particular insurance product that's tailored directly towards our product. And it's a hybrid between um, an RV type insurance and a homeowner's policy, where you have a lot of the common liabilities and things that you would have in a homeowner's insurance policy. So yes, yes, yes.
Have you made any off-grid homes?
Yes, so we have several options. One of the things that we did when we first came out was we were like, nobody was doing holding tanks in any of the trailers. Or they would do them like very special requests. So we're like, okay, every single home is gonna get holding tanks. So we started putting in 36-gallon freshwater tanks, 30-gallon black and gray water tanks. So we had 60 gallons of waste storage, and then the 36 gallons of fresh water. So we figured that if you were gonna find anything, you could find fresh water faster than you could find a hole in the ground where you could dump your waste. And we put that in every single house and made that standard. But since then, we have different options for the off the grid. We have super off the grid, where you can do these massive 100-gallon tanks. The issue comes into the transporting of the water. We have to engineer the floor so we could displace large masses of fresh water, so that you have that storage. And then as far as the solar systems go, we can do 2 kilowatt hours, which typically, if you're really conservative for one person, it's pretty good. I recommend a 4 kilowatt hour system for anybody trying to do a solar off the grid, fully sustainable system. Really engineer from there, and then really wanted to do something crazy where you lived in an area where you just didn't get a lot of sun, or you were really high north and just weren't getting the proper solar charge, then I would go with like a 6 kilowatt system with a huge battery bank, and then you could do the family of 5 thing pretty easily. So, but yeah, and the rain catchment stuff is the only thing that's kind of tricky, because there's a lot of componentry involved in transportation. So we haven't come up with a system that actually, is attached to the product, but it's coming. I mean, it's just a matter of time. But in the meantime, we'll do gutters, and then you can do a very simple rain catchment system on site, is what we strongly recommend. Or you can do a solar powered well in the ground. That works too, where it's just a solar panel and it pumps the well water right into your house, and that's it. So, yes, ma'am. Titan Tiny Homes. I have business cards here too if you want one. So, yes, sir.
So the insurance that you mentioned is really just a hybrid between home and a vehicle, but is it still up to each state and city to really decide if these are doable or not?
On whether or not they're legal?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, everywhere's going to be different. At the end of the day, it's a very small footprint, and it's looked at as an RV trailer, and the reason we did that wasn't because we thought that the recreational market is going to take off, even though I know that it will. I mean, once the bank financing is universal across the board, I mean, it took us for an entire year. We operated on just cash buyers. Like, we just got financing maybe in November of last year, and that's what really started to open up our marketplace. But until there's a financing that's universal for all tiny house manufacturers, really pretty much every company is individual, and there's only 3 or 4 of us that actually have solid financing products for our companies. And I really think that once that universal financing comes about, this industry and the quality of how it's manufactured is extremely going to threaten the way the RV manufacturers operate, because it is a high quality product and it does do the same exact thing. So to answer your question about the zoning, if anybody's really interested in making a difference in that quadrant, if you're going to go out there and you're going to really try to change the zoning, here's what I suggest. This is what we're doing in the Chicagoland area, in one of the hardest politically, it's just tough. It's really hard to get the zoning changed. Here's what I suggest you do. Partner up with an RV park. And why I say that is it's path of least resistance, right? I mean, why do all this hard, crazy work if you don't have to? So partner up with an RV park, tell them you want to just reserve 5 spots. And you're gonna build a fence, you're gonna make a little cove or something and kind of section it off. Nobody needs to know like what the actual, whatever's going on there, but get the 5 tiny houses in there and then start bringing the state officials in. So you have to reverse engineer this process. You have to think the way they think. If they allow tiny houses and it goes bad, they lose their job. Like it's that simple. So you have to make sure that they feel comfortable. So if you can show them a physical working micro example of a community, whether it's full-time, part-time, or whatever, as long as they can touch it, feel it, see it, the confidence is there and you'll have a lot more success. So that's kind of what we're doing in our area. We strongly suggest that kind of ground game for your area. But every area is different. But you have a good shot. You were supposed to have a senator out here this weekend who was going to approve land and zoning or something. It has a bill in New Jersey, so I don't think you're that far away. Yes, sir. Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we wanted to, the reason we went with steel is because one, it's recyclable, and wood's not. I mean, it's regrowable, but I mean, it's not like you could chop down a tree halfway and then let it grow back and build a house next week. So in the steel, we could do, our houses are virtually 90% recycled, renewable, where we have only 10% worth of waste. So the reason we went with the steel originally was for the weight factor. We could get the strength and get the weight down, but also just the shear factor, and we wanted to build it as much like a car. Like the exterior of our houses are steel siding. I mean, they're tough. They're built well. And but when we started using the structural polystyrene panels that we have, and you can check a lot of this information out on my YouTube channel and go to our Facebook page, but definitely on our YouTube channel, we have a lot of demonstration videos and stuff like that to really get educated on all these products that I'm talking about. So when we went to the lightweight panels, it really became down to mobility, right? Because I mean, we live in a society now where the average tenure at a job is 4 years, and then you're on to the next place. And it's such a hassle to have to pack your stuff up and move, where this way you could hitch up and go. So we understood that the average consumer is not a truck driver or somebody that like tows on a regular basis. So we wanted to make them light enough to where they could actually be mobile. Like it could be a mobile product for somebody to actually physically drag around the country that wasn't a burden. And I beat the hell out of them. Like one time, like not to tell a bunch of one-time stories, but this one time I was in Florida for a show down there. Actually, the same people that put this show on did a show down in St. Augustine, Florida back in November. And we brought a house down there, and I towed it back 21 hours straight to Chicago, and I was not kind to that house. I mean, I really wanted to break it. It was the middle of winter. Didn't have anything going on when I was getting back to Chicago for a couple of days, and if it broke or something happened, I had time. It wasn't like I was under a time constraint. We would fix it, and I really product test our product, and I really wanted to break it, and I could not break it. I mean, within reason. I'm sure I could have flipped it off a cliff in Chattanooga or something, but the bottom line is that it held up. And the only thing that changed was, so at that time, it's like 70 degrees and humid in Florida, and then it was like 10 degrees in Chicago, because it's always like 10 degrees in Chicago, but it was 10 degrees that week and dry. The only thing that happened was the caulking kind of shrunk and dried out because of the extreme change so quickly. So that I hope that answers your question and why I went with steel. Yeah, don't be bashful. I mean, just rifle them out. Yeah.
All right, so as long as we're on steel, after the framing
So our process is a little more coordinated. The question for all those that couldn't hear was, um, is this, after it's assembled and everything, is it much similar to wood framing? Well, yes and no. So there's a couple of coordinated processes that take place. Because our panels have polystyrene insulation and it's all put together already when the panels come, the issue there is we use what's called a hot knife. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but basically it's a knife that gets up to like 300 degrees and you can just carve out this foam. So that's the next step, is we go and we carve out all this foam, and then we put all the wiring and the plumbing in. And while that's going on the outside of the unit, all the drywall and everything's going on the inside of the unit. And so wires and things start to poke through the walls as the drywall goes up. And we do these houses in 8 to 10 days from start to finish. And so by the time that the electricians are done with the wiring on the outside, trims work is primarily done on the inside, and then the carpenters will then switch with the mechanical people, and then they start trimming out all the outlets on the inside, and the windows are going on from the exterior. Once the exterior windows are in, they start putting the trim in, and yeah, they move quick. But yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell the whole process, but it's not a whole lot different, it's a whole lot easier. We set a bottom track around the whole trailer, and then we just literally set the panels in. So a lot of our customers that want to be DIYers that want to do this on their own, so they'll buy the trailer from us, and then we also will send them the kit. And it's a really easy way to transport the whole process, and then you get a set of blueprints, and it's literally like 1 through 23 panels, and it just goes up. Pretty simple process. We erect the whole structure in like 8 hours. It just goes up. It's really cool. Probably the funnest thing to watch, because like I'll walk out in the shop at 7, and I'll come back out like around 12, and by 4 o'clock the whole thing's done and everybody's packed up and ready to start the next day. So, yes ma'am. So we have a saying about our trailers, and it's overkill, overkill, overkill. So the trailers are just way overkill. But what I wanted to do so first of all, our trailer chassis is ours. It's our design. So a lot of the other companies, there's a couple of different trailer manufacturers out there, and we use those trailers, but what we ended up doing is we just ended up kind of value engineering our own trailer to work best for what we do. And a lot of it was in failure points and quality issues that we saw in the other trailers, and we kind of just culminated all that experience together. And about, 14 months ago, we came out with our own trailer line. But long story short, the units themselves physically with the trailer and the axles and the tires, the whole thing, like for example, a 28-footer weighs about 11,000 pounds. But the axles, it's 3 axles, and it's rated to 7,000-pound axles, so it's got a 21,000-pound capacity overall on the chassis. So the big intention was I wanted these trailers to be able to sit. Like, that was the design. I engineered them to sit. The whole vision for the company for me was I wanted to have my grandson in the back seat one day, and I wanted to drive down the highway, and like when you're driving and you see those busted down trailers, or you see that trailer that's got a tree growing through the center of it and it's just been there forever, and you're like, oh, that's sad. Somebody just didn't want to move it that day. And where it lies, it dies. But I wanted to see the same thing with our trailers, but maybe somebody's just walking out one day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody still lives in that. And that's the whole vision, was to design something that was so tough and bulletproof that you weren't gonna break it. And that was the whole point. That's why we named it Titan. That's the whole kind of deal. So yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So we have 3 different options for the financing now. If you're a business owner and you want to do commercial leasing, like you're like, you know what, this is a great opportunity. For example, just last night, I was sitting with, I don't know if you guys had a chance to check out the Tiny Siesta. The pink flamingo was sitting on top of the house. It's the one all the way on the end. Anyways, I'm eating dinner with the guy last night. His name's so his phone keeps going off. And it's just going nuts. He's renting like by the day these houses down in Florida, and he couldn't figure out if it was from the show or whatever. But so we have that. We have a commercial leasing product for those who are business owners who want to lease multiple units and deploy them for rentals, and that's through one lender, and we'll connect you with that lender. But it's product specific. It's for our product, and that's one of the things is with all of the financing products is very product specific. So then we have another lender that will do really good credit, 6% interest type stuff, 15 years. And then we have a more subprime lender that can handle less than perfect credit and stuff like that. But all three options are really centered around our product. And that's the way the industry's kind of set up right now, is that the banks are like, okay, well, how do we know that you're going to, because the first thing people do, like if they have a massive warranty failure on any product, whether it's a car or an RV, a boat, plane, or train, they stop paying the payment because they think like, yeah, that's going right to the manufacturer. Well, the manufacturer got their money like months ago. It's the bank that they're messing with. So the banks are really reluctant to just start lending on all these different manufacturers without really knowing the product. So I think we had to put out 30 something homes before we could actually, because we had to prove residual value, we had to prove rate of return for our customers. And what was funny is, so when we product launched, our first like 10 customers, their houses all went up in value because as we started to grow, we started to elevate the price. It made the banks confident, and we got the financing done. So it was a cool process. So, sorry, I'm long-winded, so hopefully I answered your question.
Were the banks uncomfortable about the tiny houses moving to different places?
That's why we titled them that's why we went the RV route. Because then we could go after RV type banks, and they're like, oh, okay, it's just wheels, it's just like anything else, just looks different. So my big thing is, I don't like square pegs and round holes. It's too hard. Like, let's just do things really simple, and there's always a way to just make it really simple for everybody. So that's kind of our strategy. Yes, ma'am.
What is the typical amount that the bank is looking for to put down?
Typically, we see like between 10 and 20%. We good? Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate you coming out today. There's a lot of cool houses here. A lot of people put their heart and soul into this, and there's a lot of new builders here who are just getting started. And just tell them what you think, and I really appreciate you guys coming out and supporting this whole event. So thank you very much, man.
All right, thank you, Bob. Thanks so much. Okay, I just want to go over a little bit what's going to happen at noon for everybody. We have on the main stage right here, we've got the homeowners Q&A panel. So there's going to be quite a few homeowners here who will be able to ask them questions